question, I suppose, is why the woman in black? Of all the possible things you could have chosen, what made you go for that?
We chose it because we're reinvigorating Hammer, and we were looking for a Hammer movie which would be like in the genre of the older Hammer movies, the original ones. It's scary, it's a brilliant story, there's no gore, which we like, that there isn't any. It's a movie that a big audience can go and see and will go and see. But most of all, it's a really good story, and you will jump out of your skin, which is what it's all about.
And actually, I mean, you mentioned there's no gore. The film's got a 12A rating, I believe. And you lost something like 6 seconds to get it down to the 12A, didn't you?
Well, we looked at different things. This is something that both in the United States and the UK we had to look at, and obviously, as you know, with ratings, sometimes it can be a little arbitrary, but we took out very, very little, actually. The movie's not inherently gory at all. There are just certain things that trigger a rating to go up, so we took a couple frames out here and there.
Because, I mean, it is genuinely terrifying.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Exactly.
Something of a surprise that you can get that in front of an audience of essentially, theoretically, you could have a very young child go and see it and be scared witless.
I think that speaks really well.
Says he loves scary stories. So.
I can't bring him
here, but
I think it speaks well to the director, James Watkins, because he really understands suspense. And for him, it's about, if you love the characters, if you get to know the characters, and then you put them through their paces in a movie like this, you're going to be terrified on their behalf. So that's why we didn't need to go overboard with anything. It's a subtle story, but it's also an incredibly suspenseful one.
And I know you did this on a very tight time scale. So how tight was it exactly?
I think the key thing was Daniel's stop date.
Yes.
He was going to take a quick break and then go off to Broadway, and so we had to basically fit it all in between September and December of 2010. That's how long ago it was.
Yes.
And he hasn't really done a movie since. So we got him just after Potter, started prepping immediately, and that was it. So that's.
Did you feel you had to make compromises to fit to that time scale?
No, not at all. Not at all.
We're very adept at doing this.
We're adept at doing that, and Daniel's just a very consummate professional, so he understood the timing. He does it all brilliantly. He is completely gripping. When you see the movie, which I guess you have, I mean, you spend periods with Daniel when he's a house on his own with a ghost, and you are really scared. Well, that's just him. He's not talking to anybody, and you're just following him through the house. He's a brilliant actor to keep you that involved with him, and you feel the fear that he feels.
Yeah.
That's very, very clever stuff.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, and good luck with the film.
Thank you very much.
Obviously, Woman in Black, it's been everything.
Yes.
And now, finally, a film.
Yes, exactly.
So,
Why?
yeah, not quite why, but what did you think you could do different from the other genres it's been in?
Well, I think that because the book itself is a beautifully crafted book, and quite thin in the way Susan's written it. It's in a sort of pastiche of the sort of Wilkie Collins sort of films of the the Victorian age. And what she does is she suggests things as opposed to actually saying them specifically. So and then the play, as you know, is a two-hander. So I think that our aim was to sort of build it up into something bigger, so that all the set pieces were there, which were imagined in the mind of the reader, but now you see on screen.
And, I mean, I've just been speaking with your execs at Hammer, and they mentioned it's an ideal Hammer film, and I think it is certainly. It's going back to the Hammer roots. So are we going to expect to see something more like this rather than let the right one in?
Well, no, I think they're all relevant in different ways. I mean, I think the horror genre is a very wide one, as you know. I mean, if you look at the lexicon of horror, Jaws is a horror movie. It's a monster movie. So I think Let Me In is wonderful. I mean, I think our little film, The Wakewood in Ireland, is good as well. But now we have our confidence. Now we have people know what we're doing, and we're coming back to the sort of people know the Hammer is back. We're going to look more at our catalogue and our old characters, our old IP, like The Mummy and Dracula, and watch this space, really. It'll be fun.
Thank you very much. How does the relationship working with Simon work? Because, I mean, he's sort of the public face of Hammer at the moment.
Well, yes, I'm not part of the Hammer or exclusive media groups. My company bought the rights to the book some years ago, and Simon approached us at the time when they were just starting to work out how they were going to make the Hammer work, and how the company, which, as you know, has a base both here in London and in Los Angeles, and he was wanted. He was very clear that they had an ambition to really make films at a well-financed level. And they wanted to be involved in a classic British, supernatural thriller, shall we put it like that? I'm trying to avoid the word horror film because I don't think it really is a horror film.
Well, it's certainly horrific, but in the most traditional sense of the word, I would say.
It has its thrilling and horrific elements, but it's not what you would describe as an out-and-out horror film.
So this has been on the cards for quite a long time then. I wasn't aware.
Well, I'm perfectly happy to confess that that my company had quite a lot of difficulty finding a way to adapt the story, and it was only after Simon and Hammer's involvement, and then most particularly Jane Goldman getting involved. When Jane got involved, she found the way to tell this story in a film way, in a linear narrative. You know, I don't know if you've read the book, but it's spread over several time periods, and that's quite problematic. And Jane just provided a lot lot of news story. But fortunately, Susan Hill is very happy with that, so it's worked out as the best of all worlds. That it's a fairly free adaptation, which the author is very pleased with.
And that's interesting, because I know you have had Susan's involvement. Was that contractual, or was that sort of as a courtesy as a producer?
It wasn't contractual in the sense of there being any obligation of her. She's just always been extremely interested, and she's obviously as a creative writer, her credentials are well known, but she's very astute, and for somebody who's not really had an involvement in the film business, she provided a lot of good ideas. So it's been a good collaboration.